After 2 years, the boy finally completed this tower defense game. In a moment, he couldn't help but shout excitedly in his live stream. The audience didn't expect that someone could actually complete this game. Originally, this was a game known for its extreme difficulty called Empire Defense. 10 years after its release, the first person to complete it has finally appeared. "I told everyone, no matter how difficult, a game is meant to be conquered," said the boy, a streamer who only plays challenging classic games. After successfully completing it, he received many gifts from fans. But more than these, the joy of completing a game as a professional player made him happier. However, not everything was perfect. During his playthrough, perhaps the audience had grown attached to the characters in the game. They hoped that in the final battle, all characters would survive. But the outcome was that, except for the protagonist Lucas, everyone else died. The boy's goal, after all, wasn't to ensure everyone survived, but to finish the game. The final boss, known as the Lake Princess Who Can't Sleep, concluded the game. Lucas still stood there, at the sight of the fallen boss monster, blankly standing atop a mountain-like pile of dead allies and enemies. The boy didn't know why. Although Lucas was just a game character, his silhouette seemed lonely. As the credits rolled, his 2.5-year commitment finally came to an end, but a strange sense of loss surged within the boy. Just then, he saw a message on the screen. Shouldn't the developers give some sort of reward? This game had previously been controversial due to its difficulty, and even attracted countless insults from players. There's no need for a reward. During this time, it was enough to have fun playing with everyone. After all, the game's official website had been gone for so long, and in 10 years, no sequel had been released, making it impossible to contact the developers. Now, maintaining his fans was the most important thing. But just then, the director of Empire Defense took the initiative to contact the boy. For a moment, the boy's eyes widened. The appearance of this message instantly set off a frenzy in the comments. This person, claiming to be the game's director, started by thanking the boy, but his next words left the boy somewhat baffled. "For us, there is still hope. This is truly fortunate. You have proven your qualifications and ability. Please come here and help us." After a brief moment of thought, the boy guessed this might be a prank by someone boring. Just as he was about to kick the director out of the live stream, a strong dizziness struck him. He guessed it might be because he had been playing too long and was shocked. However, he believed his audience would call for help. As he fell, the credits of Empire Defense also finally ended. When he opened his eyes again, the surroundings were filled with magic. He quickly got up from the ground, but this was no longer the room he knew. He was curious about the sound he had just heard. The next second, he saw a huge rock flying towards him. Just awake, he was terrified by the scene before him and could do nothing but cover his head and crouch on the ground. Once calmed, he began to analyze the current situation. The air was filled with the smell of gunpowder. It was a time of war. Just then, a cannon was fired near him. Just as the boy had calmed down, another loud bang occurred nearby. "Damn, that's enough from you guys." He couldn't help but curse aloud, but he was quickly startled by the sight before him. Numerous neatly dressed soldiers stood in front of him, seemingly defending against something outside the city walls. He realized this might not be a prank, but he was still curious about what exactly was happening. Watching the soldiers busy on the city walls, the boy realized he might be in the midst of a war. Just then, a soldier noticed him. The soldier ran towards the boy while shouting, "Your Highness the Prince! Your Highness, are you alright?" The boy instinctively thought that the enemy was storming the city walls, and the sight of the soldier with a sword in front of him scared him into retreating repeatedly. But then, the soldier knelt down. "Please spare my life, Your Highness the Prince." The boy was full of confusion. Why did this uncle suddenly act this way? "Sir, could you calm down first?" He tried to soothe the soldier. However, before he could finish his words, a powerful magic flew straight at him. Fortunately, he was not hit directly by this attack. He couldn't help but wonder, was that a new type of bomb? The area that was hit was burning with green flames. He soon heard a voice. "This way. It's this way. The raiders are coming up." The boy quickly looked in the direction of the voice. "Hold them back. We must block them. Don't let them get up." In the next second, a soldier standing on the city wall was pierced through the body. It was the first time the boy had seen such a horrifying scene from such a close distance. But it didn't end there. More and more soldiers fell before him. He couldn't help but wonder what was behind that city wall. However, his curiosity was soon satisfied, because a gigantic spider had climbed up the city wall and stood in front of him. The next second, the spider roared at the boy. The boy had not expected that the soldiers were fighting against such a monster. "The raiders are up. Block it quickly. Don't let it move." But in front of the spider, the soldiers had no chance to fight back. The boy was too frightened to move. He could only watch helplessly as the monster crawled towards him. Just as the spider's claws were about to strike the boy, a blonde knight suddenly appeared in front of him. With just one sword, the knight easily killed the spider in front of him. "Your Highness, you really think you can deny reality? Your reaction is too cliché, isn't it?" However, the boy was obviously still not recovered from his recent fear. "Your Highness, what has happened to you? Are you injured anywhere?" The boy always felt that the man in front of him seemed familiar. He suddenly recalled the game character who had accompanied him for 2 years. "Could you be Lucas?" At that moment, the man's eyes moistened. "Indeed, Your Highness, you've hurt your head. I am still glad because you finally called my name. Having been your guard knight for a lifetime, you never remembered me. But But if the man in front of him was really Lucas, then the world the boy is in now is the world of the game Empire Defense. He has been transported into the game he had just completed, but he can't feel happy at all because this game involves desperately resisting the onslaught of monsters. It's the hardest tower defense game in history. He doesn't understand why he has entered this game world. Your Highness, please calm down first. What is coming at us now is the Black Spider Army, and although the front line is about to fall, the enemy won't appear after sunset. There are about 30 minutes left until the sun sets. No matter what, please, Your Highness, you must hold on until then. The boy doesn't know why Lucas is protecting him, nor does he understand why everyone calls him Your Highness. He is curious about who he is now. After a long wait, the sun finally set. After the monsters retreated, the soldiers began to clean up the battlefield. The sunset has begun, and the Black Spider Army is retreating. Your Highness, would you like to rest for a bit? The boy looked down from the city wall without saying a word. The bodies of black spiders were piled up, but he knew that tomorrow those monsters would still climb over the bodies of their companions and continue to surge toward here. Lucas, what time is it now? Where are we? Today is the last day of February in the 649th year of the imperial calendar. This is the frontline position of the fortress city of Crossroad, so tomorrow is March 1st, 649. He suddenly realized that this day was the tutorial time and location he had experienced countless times over the past 2 years. The boy is the third prince of the empire, Ash von Hyder Everblack. That's right, Your Highness. Why do you keep saying such strange things? It turns out, the third prince of the empire is a famous madman. Most of the city's forces were destroyed because of him. And most importantly, Ash meets the worst end in the tutorial. This game is known as the hardest tower defense game because it features the highest hell level difficulty in an Iron Man mode that doesn't allow saving. Ash is the only one who has completed the Iron Man hell mode, and he is confident he can pass all levels. But this tutorial's time and location are different, as this scene is absolutely impossible to complete. The tutorial in the game setting is doomed to be unwinnable because the story starts with Lucas escaping alone from the monster attack. The entire game lasts 3 years, and the Black Spider Army is a monster that can only be hunted in the mid to late part of the second year. However, now at the beginning, Ash must face such monsters. Even though he has the experience of completing the game and knows all the hidden tricks, the Black Spider's level is still ridiculously high at level 55 and 60. With more than 1,000 in number, Ash still can't think of a way to get through the tutorial. The only weapon he can use is an SR-grade artifact, the Ancient Mana Cannon. But the more dire the situation, the more Ash forces himself to stay calm. As a professional player, Ash knows that there is always a clever way out in any situation. What he needs to do is to find that slightly higher probability and a slightly better method. Finally, Ash found the only hope for survival. Ash immediately left the room to look for Lucas. Go and gather the party under my direct control immediately. Do you mean your guards, Your Highness? You've never summoned them before. Why suddenly? Enough talk. Hurry and call them over, because I've thought of a way to turn the situation around. Soon, these people gathered in the command center. Besides Lucas, Ash's guards included 3 members. These were faces Ash was very familiar with. Lily, a fire mage with extremely high firepower. Ken, a fierce knight. And Damien, a priest wearing glasses. In countless tutorials, Ash had seen them die. By the way, why is he curled up over there? Unlike the other 3, Damien was curled up in a corner crying. Damien is like this because he lost a teammate today. Please understand. In fact, Damien was always in an abnormal state during the tutorial, so he often died before he could play a role. From now on, I will explain the tasks each of you will perform in tomorrow's battle. First is Lily, who is the team's main firepower, will act as the shield, serving as the main tank to block the spider's attacks. Your Highness, I am a mage. Next is the shield knight Ken. His task is to draw the enemy's attention with wide area provocation and physically block attacks. His task is to infiltrate the enemy camp and disrupt the enemy. Lastly is the healer Damien, who from now on will serve as the team's sniper. Lucas will need to command the remaining soldiers to maintain the front line. After hearing Ash's assignments, everyone fell silent. Damn, you call that a battle plan? Because of your wrong commands. We are already in a desperate situation. Now you say this? You are facing the Emperor's son, the supreme commander of this front line. Okay, I'll ask you again. Ken, are you going to disobey my orders? In everyone's eyes, Ash had always been a madman, and to clear this tutorial, Ash knew conventional tactics couldn't be used. In the eyes of everyone, Ash's battle plan was both unconventional and reckless, so now Ash had to make them follow him without question. Suddenly, Ash plunged a sword into Lily. I believe everyone has the capability to complete their tasks, don't you? For a moment, everyone stood still. To them, a mage was a crucial part of their combat strength, and Ash had harmed Lily before the battle, which was hardly convincing. But in the next second, flames suddenly ignited on Lily's body. Everyone was at a loss, completely unaware of what had happened. It turned out that these tutorial characters all had unique hidden traits, even ones that were the exact opposite of their apparent roles. Lily, you were cut by a knife when you were young, right? The incident when goblins attacked your village. After that, you gained the fire skin trait. As long as you have surplus magic power, you can avoid all physical attacks. Am I right? Indeed, Lily possessed the fire skin Skin trait, which made her immune to physical attacks as long as she had enough mana. Although this ability seemed quite useless in the game, here, in reality, as long as these traits could be utilized effectively, there might be a chance to clear the level. I'm sorry, Lily. I used a very savage method to prove this. Next up is you, Ken. You were a little thief when you were young, right? Born into a poor family, with many mouths to feed at home. It wasn't easy for you to rise to the rank of knight, was it? Ken looked puzzled, unsure why Ash knew so much about his past. What's important is not why I know, but what you can do in battle. It turned out that Ken's trait was survival method of a petty thief. As long as his health was sufficient, he could instantly escape the enemy's sight and hide. Do you choose to answer me, or do you want me to prove it again? No need. There's no need to prove it. I can do it. Then that leaves only Damien. Damien, you are the most important part of this battle plan. Your eyesight is exceptionally good, right? That's why you could see every detail of your friend's death. He was my friend from back home. We came from the same orphanage, but he died trying to save me in battle. Why did you bring us here? Your Highness, what is this all for? Do you have some noble goal, or do you think lives like ours are just here to amuse those with power? Please give me back my friend. Maybe in your eyes, he was just an insignificant soldier, but he grew up with me. He was my best friend. Ash didn't argue, but instead placed his hand on Damien's shoulder and spoke softly. Blame me, Damien. If necessary, hate me. Your friend died trying to save you. Are you going to do nothing and wait to die? Because you have a commander like me. Are you going to give up the hope your friend sacrificed his life for? Ash looked into Damien's eyes and continued. You should struggle. Seek revenge against me. Kill the spiders here. Survive and make me suffer. Damien, tell me, do you want to kill those spiders? Do you want to kill me, the commander who made you lose your friend? Damien was silent for a while, then gave a definitive response. In everyone's eyes, this was an act of great betrayal, but Ash didn't care. I promise you, as long as you can get out alive, no matter when, I will surely die by your hand. Hearing this, Lucas wanted to step forward to stop him, but Ash stopped him. If we fail in battle, we all will die. However, at that time, I will leave my life to you. This is a promise made on the honor of the royal family. So even if it's just for tomorrow, follow my orders. He knew very well that when people lose hope of surviving, hatred can also become a motivation. Even if Damien's hatred was directed at him, to seize that glimmer of hope, Ash was willing to make a promise on the honor of the royal family, leaving his life at Damien's disposal. I won't make excuses, because my fatal judgment error has led our army to face the crisis of total annihilation. But if we act according to my plan, we can drive away those spiders. Even if the hope is very faint, we still have a slight chance of success. So, just this once, are you willing to believe in me and follow me? At this moment, even though the commander in front of them was the infamous Third Prince, everyone's expression was incredibly determined. Time quickly moved to the next day. The monsters became active again, and the black spider army surged over. The monsters are coming in. Is this really okay? Don't worry, just do as I instruct. This time's battle plan was very simple. While the team members bought time, they sought to find the spider queen who was giving orders to the monsters, and then blast the queen's head off with the mana cannon. After removing the suppressor, Ash also forcibly increased the magic power of the mana cannon. Even if the opponent was the queen, it would surely subdue her. The only problem was that the queen's position was usually in a place invisible to the naked eye. Fortunately, Ash possessed a special skill, map creation. This skill could scan the terrain within a certain range and display it in the form of a mini-map in front of the user. The first time I saw these crap stats, I was even startled myself, but fortunately, this skill is very useful. However, he soon discovered that there was no boss monster marker on the map, which meant that the Spider Queen was still very far away. At the same time, Ken was already preparing to leave the city alone. Although Ash had given him all the stamina potions in the fortress before leaving, Ken was not sure if he could return alive. Lily's task was to block the path with her fire skin when the spiders attacked the cannon. Although Lily was trembling with fear, she still cheered herself on. I can definitely do this. Meanwhile, Lucas was already standing on the walls of the fortress. Under his command, all soldiers were ready. Everyone must hold on. We need to buy time until His Highness defeats the Queen. Seeing Ash already at the cannon, he thought preparations were complete, so Lucas immediately ordered to fire at the monsters in front of him. Instantly, cannonballs and bolts rained down on the spiders. Lucas signaled to Ash that all was going well. However, Lucas did not know that Ash's expression was very grim at the moment, but as a commander, he had to calm down and stabilize the morale of the troops. The tutorial's objective was not to eliminate the boss, so it was not surprising that no marker appeared. Even if this was the monster's total assault, the reserve forces would definitely be guarding against sudden situations in the rear, and the Spider Queen's location might very well be there. Damien, the boss's location is over there. Can you see it? Is it a place with not even a shadow of the enemy? I see it. It looks like a stationary group of spiders, among which must be the Spider Queen. Can you find her? The queen you mentioned, is she the creature with a human upper body and spider lower half? This was a battle where both the level and number were overwhelmingly disparate. A healer with glasses responsible for long-range sniping. Everything sounded so absurd, yet it was their only hope. Rotate the cannon direction to southwest. The precise angle leave to me and Damien. Mana replenishment complete. You can fire at any any time. Damien, take her down. It's up to you to aim at the queen's head. Your Highness, I am not confident. I have never done this kind of thing before, and you suddenly ask me to take on this role. Damien, it doesn't matter even if you miss. All responsibility is mine to bear. Even if you fail and everything is destroyed, it doesn't matter. I take all the responsibility. You just need to pull the trigger. Just do this one thing, and you can avenge your friend halfway. Hearing that he could avenge his friend, Damien hesitated no longer and pulled the trigger. A powerful force surged from the barrel, flying straight towards the distant plane. As a mushroom cloud slowly rose, a loud bang reached everyone's ears. How did it go? Did the shell hit? It hit. We accurately hit right in the middle of the monsters. For a moment, numerous veterans surrounded Damien, and despite being in a crisis, they did not hesitate to praise him. It turned out that Damien's ability was thousand-mile eyes, allowing him to hit any target he could see accurately. Although in the game he was a character who couldn't even equip weapons, now he was demonstrating remarkable abilities on the battlefield. This made Ash momentarily proud of his plan, but he quickly discovered that the spider attacks had not stopped. Logically, if the queen were taken down, the spiders should retreat. Thinking this, Ash immediately picked up a telescope to assess the situation. The previous cannon shot had indeed hit the queen accurately, but the spiders in front of the queen had absorbed much of the damage. After the attack, the queen let out a roar, and all the spider swarms instantly surged toward the direction of the cannon. The scene shifts to the forest outside the fortress, where Ken, carrying only one last potion, could only hide behind a tree, praying that the spiders would not discover him. At that moment, following the queen's orders, all the spiders turned around, presenting Ken with his only chance to escape. He hesitated, wondering whether to seize this opportunity. Meanwhile, Damien had fired the second cannon shot. Although they hit the spider queen accurately again, the spiders still did not stop their advance. This meant that the queen was still alive. If this were a game scenario, the spider queen should be huntable with just a few artifact attacks. But in the tutorial version of the spider queen, Ash knew nothing about her situation. Moreover, removing the suppressor had greatly affected the cannon's accuracy and power. The number of uses was also less than anticipated. According to the current situation, the mana cannon could be used 3 more times at most, meaning they must use these 3 shots to kill the queen, or they would all face death. However, the side effects of Damien's thousand-mile eyes were starting to appear, and Ash was unsure how much longer he could hold on. Just then, the Black Spider Army's Demolisher arrived, and a scene never seen in the game unfolded. All the spiders began to ram the city walls. We must stop them. Concentrate all firepower on the Demolisher. Even though all the cannonballs were aimed at the Demolisher, they successfully reached the city wall. Eventually, the wall collapsed, and the Demolisher paved a way for their comrades, allowing the Black Spider Army to flood in like a tide. As a seasoned gamer, Ash had never seen such a method of siege. Everyone, pick up your weapons. We go to the first floor to provide support. With Lucas's help, Ash quickly calmed down. Our task is to continue firing at the queen. We must eliminate the queen before those creatures reach the cannon. After the mana was reloaded, Damien fired the third cannon. Due to the side effects of thousand-mile eyes, his eyes were already bloodshot. Although the shot also hit the queen, she was still alive. Do not hesitate. Immediately load the next cannonball. Meanwhile, Lucas had already rushed to the front line of the battle. With his abilities, he could easily handle these spiders. Everyone listen up. Swear to protect the cannon at all costs. Protect the Imperial Prince. Although with Lucas's help, the spiders were temporarily unable to approach the cannon directly, Ash knew very well that this situation wouldn't last long. Although this scenario had occurred many times in the game, now every tick of the numbers meant a fresh life passing away before him. The cries of his comrades and the smell of blood in the air continuously undermined the soldiers' morale. Moreover, the mana cannon had malfunctioned, and the soldiers were using their bodies to cool it down. There were hardly any soldiers left around Lucas. Ash could think of no way to turn the situation around. You damned monsters. I'm right here. Look at me. Suddenly, Ash noticed Ken among the crowd of monsters. At that moment, Ken had drunk his last vial of stamina potion. Listen up. I am a knight of the Empire. Almost instantly, all the monsters surged toward Ken. The terrifying scene made his scalp tingle. That's right, you damned creatures. Come chase me. He saw a rock ahead. If he could reach it, he could use his special ability. Just try and find out where I really am. No sooner had he spoken than Ken activated survival method of a petty thief. Wait, Ken, your remaining health. But now, Ken, who hadn't managed to activate his ability, was already surrounded by spiders. Damn, I knew I shouldn't have trusted you. Just like that, Ken was brutally torn apart by the monsters. Even from the cannon, Ash could clearly hear the horrific tearing sounds. Because of Ash's command error, a precious life came to an end. Ken has stretched our defense line. No one is to retreat a step. At this moment, all soldiers lost their lives because of a single sentence from Ash. Recalling when he used to play this game, Ash often used his allies as bait and abandoned them according to the situation, because this damned game was designed that way. If you wanted to save someone, obtain a certain item, complete a secondary mission, or achieve a certain feat, you had to sacrifice some lives. Back then, Ash never questioned these actions, but now, he finally understood the meaning of what he had done before, and understood that all deaths are painful. Damned monsters, I order you to stop. But the monsters did not stop. Shouting alone could not stop them. Then, a sharp sword struck directly into the body of a monster. Impudent creature, how dare you aim for the prince? Your Highness, are you alright? Did the monsters hurt you just now? Watching the faltering monster, Ash finally understood one thing. The only way to make the monsters stop was to completely eliminate them before everyone else fell. Your Highness, the fourth cannonball is loaded, but the cannon can no longer withstand more firing. Damien, can you still fire? I still can, Your Highness. At this moment, blood flowed down Damien's cheeks, but he did not hesitate to fire the cannonball. Thanks to Damien's thousand-mile eyes trait, the cannonball flew straight towards the Spider Queen. Numerous spiders tried to throw their bodies at the cannonball to shield the queen from the attack, but in the end, the cannonball hit the queen's head accurately. However, despairingly, the damned Spider Queen was still alive. As the queen's roar echoed, the soldiers felt as if their strength had been drained, and they collapsed to the ground one by one. It turned out their efforts had no effect on the queen. The cannon had reached its limit. Firing one more cannonball would cause the cannon to explode. Since we're out of options now, we might as well give up. Ash was reluctant to admit defeat, but he knew the situation was nearly hopeless. But the reality was in front of them. The cannon was nearly destroyed, the defense line had completely fallen, and even the gunner could no longer open his eyes. Everything seemed to be over, apparently hopelessly so. It's not over yet. Our last attack definitely worked. The queen's outer shell has completely fallen off. The voice of a scout broke the atmosphere of despair. Ash didn't expect that under these circumstances, the scout would still hold his post. Just one more shot will do. Unfortunately, before the scout could finish speaking, the cannon was completely destroyed by the enemy's attack. Witnessing this, Lucas nearly went mad. As the cannon collapsed, Ash realized that everything seemed to be over. However, as he was dazed, a figure appeared in front of him. As the cannon collapsed, Lucas used his body to shield Ash from the falling boulders. Your Highness, are you injured? That's what I should be asking you. Your Highness, do you remember? It was almost 20 years ago, but Ash didn't remember because he was just a gamer inhabiting this body. When you first appointed me as your guard, I still remember the words you said to me. Although I can't become the Emperor, I will definitely be the coolest man in the world. So, as the one who will become my knight, you too must become the coolest knight in the world. Although Lucas was just a child back then, Ash's words deeply touched him. I still remember it now. So, Your Highness, I believe in you. With everything turned out like this, you still believe in me? Whenever, wherever. But before he could finish, Lucas was crushed under the rubble. After some effort, Ash finally rescued Lucas. He was very clear that Lucas was the hero of this world, who would bring redemption to it. Therefore, Lucas must not fall. But more importantly for now was to get control of the battlefield. After some searching, Ash finally found the soldiers and the mana cannon. Although these people had passed out, fortunately, they had not suffered fatal injuries. However, Ash still wondered, why am I still alive? Where did those spiders go? I've been waiting for you. A weak voice came. These spiders, I've blocked them all for you. We haven't lost yet. The voice was weak, yet full of perseverance. Ash was about to go over, but Lily stopped him. I can't hold on much longer, but I can still temporarily block the entrance. The demolishers will soon break through the walls. We don't have much time. Please hurry. At least don't let us die in vain. Ash could only clench his teeth, holding back his tears. Artillerymen, what are you waiting for? Load the last cannonball. But Your Highness, I already told you, the cannon's durability has exceeded the critical point, and it will explode the moment it is fired. Anyway, we would be pierced by the spider's claws if we continue like this. Better to fight to the death than to wait to die. How do you plan to aim? We can't see anything, and there's no way to aim at the queen, and the cannon's mount is also shattered. The cannon can be lifted by hand. We don't need to aim. Just let Damien shoot the cannonball. Go load the last cannonball. This is an order. Although Ash doesn't understand the principle of thousand-mile eyes, he has no choice at this moment but to trust Damien. Damien, this is our last chance. Just one more shot. Please try one more time. Your Highness, what's the point of doing this? Whatever I do, nothing will change. Just one more hit, and we can kill that monster. I'm not talking about that. Even if I pull the trigger again and kill the Spider Queen, what will that change? Ash hadn't expected that at this final moment, Damien's faith would completely collapse. I don't know what the meaning of all I've done is. My friend, Van, is no longer here. No matter how I seek revenge, he won't come back. No matter how hard I try, the world will take everything from me. I don't want to continue. I don't want to live this tired life anymore. I want to be with Van. Damien, do you think this world is unfair? Even if we survive this crisis, do you still think living is a painful thing? That's exactly how it should be. Don't be foolish. If this world had a difficulty level, it would definitely be hell mode. Everywhere are unreasonable and absurd things. Nothing develops according to our wishes. But that's the world. Do you think nobody knows? We all live in such bleak conditions. Because of this, should we give up attacking? You choose to throw in the towel and leave beautifully? Look around you. We must fight until the last moment of our lives. I will continue to fight. I will keep thinking and struggle until the last moment of my life. If you really want to let go, then end it now with this sword. But if you are a coward who doesn't have the courage to end it yourself, then become my trigger. Stop looking for friends who are no longer here. As long as you have your master, that's enough. Stop assigning unnecessary meaning to your life. You are just a cannon in my chess game, a gun in my hands, my trigger. That's enough. Just then, Ash's passive skill, the indomitable commander, awakened. This is an order. My trigger. Go grab that damned cannon and blow up that damned monster. Your Highness, as per your command. The last cannonball is loaded, but there is no way to cool down the cannon now. If it can't be cooled, then don't cool it. I'll lift it. The cannon is extremely hot. Direct contact will definitely cause severe burns. Better to be burned alive than to die and go to hell. Damien, are you ready? Your Highness, I can't see ahead. It doesn't matter. My hands are numb. It doesn't matter. I will lift the cannon for you. You just need to pull the trigger. Hurry and help His Highness. Thus, the survivors worked together to lift this scalding hope. Just then, the demolishers broke through the last wall. Damien, pull this damn trigger for me. With everyone's effort, the last hope was finally launched. The cannonball flew straight toward the distance, while by this time, the spiders had completely surrounded the survivors. But now, all they could do was pray. After all, it was an almost impossible task to fire a cannonball at an unseen enemy from beneath a collapsed cannon mount. However, the cannonball accurately struck the Spider Queen, ignoring elevation, distance, and the countless monsters blocking the view, as if it was all predetermined. The cannonball precisely hit the Spider Queen's forehead, cleanly blowing its head off. In his dying moments, Ash recalled his first fan. You're so cool. How did you clear it? Ash's mind was now a blur, and he couldn't remember what he had responded at the time. The next second, a sharp pain brought Ash's consciousness back to reality. Your Highness, you should rest for a while. Although Damien has treated you with magic, your burns are severe and will take a long time to fully heal. You've been asleep for 3 days and 3 nights. I thought you would never wake up. Who would have thought we'd actually survive? All thanks to you. After the Queen was eliminated, the Black Spider army just stopped moving. Your Highness, we did it. We won. The reinforcement troops that arrived have already collected the bodies of our soldiers and dealt with those stationary spiders. They are almost done cleaning up. Your injuries this time are severe, and when we return to Crossroad, you need to visit the church. However, even if you fully recover, you will probably have quite a few scars. Scars are nothing compared to life. Lily, how are you? Your injuries. When my magic was depleted, one of the spiders slashed my back. It might have damaged the nerves in my spine, so I can't move my lower body. But, Your Highness, you don't need to worry about me, because I'm happy just to be alive. Survivors include 5 artillerymen, plus Lucas, Damien, and you and me. That's everyone. You see, before the last battle, there were hundreds of us. Ash felt deep regret. If he hadn't treated it all as a tutorial in a game, if he had thought of a better way, perhaps more people could have survived. Your Highness, you shouldn't blame yourself too much. You are not a god. It was impossible to save everyone in that situation. You did your best, but it was I who led the troops here in the first place. No one expected that the monsters would move in large numbers again after decades. Even so, Ash's words were filled with self-reproach. In this situation, you still led us to win this battle. I hope you won't blame yourself anymore. Just then, Lucas burst through the door. Your Highness, it's so good that you're awake. Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere? I'll go call Damien right away. You must be badly injured too. Is it really okay for you to be walking around? Don't you know? I've always been a tough guy. I've been sorting out the list of the deceased during this time, although some bodies haven't been found yet, but all that could be recovered have been dealt with. Then take me to see them. Both tried to stop Ash. They died under my command. I must go. Lucas, come and support me. Thus, Lucas carried Ash to the city wall. They encountered an unexpected person. Damien, Your Highness, you're finally awake. How are your eyes? I'm fine now. I started to see clearly again from yesterday, and now my vision is almost back to normal. You see, all the injured here were treated by Damien, which means he was using healing magic while being unable to see. The boy who once would give up at the slightest setback, now after surviving this battle, had a maturity on his face that did not match his age. During the 3 days Ash was unconscious, Damien treated all the soldiers' wounds while blind. Ash was well aware that he had endured much in this battle. Damien, this operation succeeded largely thanks to you. If you wish, I can give you more money than you could ever spend, and I will also make sure you never have to battle again. You started as a mercenary, but now you are free. Your Highness, haven't you said it? I am your trigger. Moreover, I want to know the origins of those monsters, why they created them. I also don't want anyone else to die in front of me like Van did. So, please let me stay by your side. Then from now on, you'll have to follow me, because a priest is needed at the place where we mourn the dead. Ash turned around and thought, perhaps there was no better battle plan at the time. Moreover, dwelling on other possibilities for what had already happened was meaningless. Since a choice had been made, the outcome had to be accepted. What Ash could do was carry this burden on his shoulders and move forward. After a simple funeral, all the bodies were collected and transported. In Crossroad, tens of thousands die each year, their lives even less valued than their funerals. There's an open area to the west of Crossroad where I plan to bury everyone and commemorate them, and I will designate the last day of February each year as the day to mourn their sacrifice. He did this not only for these people, but also for those characters whose lives he had ended without remorse hundreds of times while replaying the game. This was a form of atonement for a classic game enthusiast. Lucas, I will not fail a second time. I absolutely will not fail again. It's getting late. We should head back now. Back to our base, Crossroad. Under the escort of the support troops, everyone set off on the journey back. After spending 3 days in the carriage, Ash couldn't hold back any longer. Lucas, how far are we from Crossroad now? Throughout the 3 days, Lucas's answer never changed. Your Highness, we are almost there. Just wait a little longer. Bored, Ash began checking his system panel. Although the capabilities of his character were very poor, fortunately, after reaching level 5, he could choose a profession. Moreover, all the professions in the game were available for selection. However, Ash discovered a profession he had never seen before, and he was curious about its features. In the last battle, he had also gained a passive skill, the Indomitable Commander. This skill could help allies within a 10-meter radius become immune to mental abnormal states, which was quite effective but useless in the early stages, as mental abnormal magic appeared only later in the game. Just as he hesitated whether to choose the beginner commander profession, Lucas suddenly spoke up. Your Highness, we can see Crossroad now. Ash looked out the window, and a huge fortress appeared before him. Every year, tens of thousands die in this city, their lives even less valuable than a funeral. This fortress, built at the southern end of the world, was Crossroad. The purpose of building this fortress was to block the monsters emerging from Black Lake. Although it was once the Empire's largest fortress, as the frequency of monster attacks decreased, the Empire's troops were dispatched elsewhere, and the gaps were filled by mercenaries of varying quality. In recent years, the place has developed rapidly, and people no longer call it a fortress, but rather Monster Battlefront Fortress City. For those mercenaries who value money above all else, it was a road to death, a city built on graves, humanity's last line of defense. Crossroad. This city was much larger than the fortress Ash had seen in the game, and it also possessed a prosperity disproportionate to its size. However, no matter what, Ash's role now was as the lord of this place, but as a lord returning to his territory, he was not welcomed by the residents, who cast wary glances at his carriage, making him feel the heavy tension in the air. In their eyes, Ash was the lord who had abandoned all his soldiers and fled back in disgrace. Ash knew that words alone could not change their opinion. So, in fact, on the way back, he had already prepared for this. What was loaded in the carriage now was key to changing the situation. It's all black spider magic gems. Given the high level of black spiders, even those who don't know much can see these magic gems are quite valuable. With these magic gems, I won't have to worry about financial issues for a while. Moreover, to ensure the game progresses smoothly, maintaining a good relationship with the citizens is crucial. Fortunately, I know how to increase the citizens' favorability by filling their empty hearts with glittering gold coins. Soon, the carriage arrived at the Lord's mansion in Crossroad. You've worked hard on this journey, Lucas. Ash got off the carriage with Lucas's help, but he was soon shocked by the sight of the luxurious manor, which was starkly different from his previous residence. Just then, a figure burst through the front door. It's so good to see you back safe and sound, my lord. Ash was curious about who this person coming to greet him was. It turned out to be Ader, the NPC in the game responsible for managing the city. All administrative affairs of Crossroad were handled through him. My lord, I've been worried about you. What would happen if scars appeared on your royal body? I've prepared warm bath water for you, and dinner is ready. You should rest well today. Seeing the lavish decor, Ash was momentarily overwhelmed. Lucas, go let the soldiers rest as well. And don't overthink things yourself. Go get some rest too. But I still need to protect you. Not today. Rest up, and come back tomorrow to protect me. Under Ader's guidance, Ash went to the bathhouse. Since his arrival in this world, he could finally relax. Ash had hardly had a good rest, so he planned to take this opportunity to fully relax. Speaking of which, you are really impressive, my lord. Oh wait, I should call you the classic nerd. This scheming-looking NPC, Ader, recognized Ash's identity as a transmigrator right away. You are quite impressive, classic nerd. For a moment, Ash paused in what he was doing. How do you know these things? Are you this damned person? That's right, I am Ader, the director of the game Empire Defense. Before he could finish, Ash's fist had already harshly landed on his face. After all, it was after receiving his message that Ash mysteriously crossed into this game world. Classic nerd, calm down a bit. I'm sorry for suddenly inviting you here, but this world needs you to save it. Before he could finish speaking, Ash lunged at him again. After catching his breath and calming down, Ash said, let me get this straight. You're saying you're the director who messaged me. You really are the director of this game, this world? Then why did you bring me here? Because this world has a true ending, the only one that no one has ever achieved. I've reset this world countless times in order to reach that ending, but I've never succeeded. So I began seeking help from others. As the scenery around them began to change, I transformed this world into a game format and then showcased it to players from other worlds. Those players discovered new possibilities through many methods I hadn't thought of, although none reached the true ending. I didn't know such a thing existed. Although you didn't achieve the true ending, you accomplished what no one else could. Iron Man Hell Mode. So far, you're the only one who has cleared it. By my judgment, you're the player with the highest possibility of reaching the true ending, so I invited you here. That's basically kidnapping, and you made me inhabit this guy. That was actually a bug. I didn't expect things to turn out this way. Anyway, if you can achieve the true ending, I'll reward you. Classic nerd, I will fulfill one wish for you. You mean, any wish? If you look into my identity, I'm somewhat like a god to this world. So, giving you a generous gift when you return to your original world is no difficulty for me. Anything at all? Even 10 billion in cash? A mere 10 billion is nothing. 100 billion wouldn't be a problem either. Although Ader's promises sounded like pie in the sky, Ash did have many desires he wanted to fulfill. Or rather, there was one wish he absolutely had to fulfill. Don't you have a wish? Something more important than money. A dream you once thought impossible and therefore gave up on. It was only then that Ash realized that Ader had summoned him after thoroughly understanding him. He knew Ash was regretful about something and had been living with that regret. That dream, I can help you achieve it. That dream ended a long time ago. As long as it's still in your heart, it means the dream hasn't failed yet. It's still there waiting for you. If Ash could achieve the real ending of this world, he could get everything he wanted from Ader's hands. But Ash wondered, if Ader had such power, why didn't he solve the problem himself? It turns out that Ader has many limitations in this world. Although he is the game director in this world, he is just an ordinary human, so he sought the help of players from other worlds. However, Ash learned that if he failed along the way, he would die in this world. After all, this is a real world, and the saying you only live once is particularly significant here. For Ash, who had cleared Iron Man Hell mode, such a risk, though high, was not unacceptable. If you want to return to Earth now, I can also send you back. Actually, when I first invited you here, I wanted to ask you this question, but due to many things happening later, I never had the chance. Please make your choice. You want to challenge the true ending and get a chance to fulfill your wish, or would you prefer to return to a safe and calm everyday life where your life isn't at risk? Classic nerd. I will respect your choice. Ash pondered for a while. Although he longed to return to his previous life, the opportunity to realize his dream was right before him. Moreover, having already cleared Iron Man Hell mode, he was well acquainted with this world. He felt that even going through it once more was not impossible. It shouldn't be too difficult. Leave this little task to me. I'll take it seriously and try my best. So you need to help me properly. And don't forget, if I achieve the true ending, you must fulfill my wish. Of course, that's no problem. You can even treat me like a dog right now. Then, before tomorrow morning, go sell all the black spider magic gems. But it's almost evening now. The market should be closed. Just do it. No matter what method you use. I want to see the corresponding amount of money before you handle official duties tomorrow. But there are a total of 388 black spider magic gems. And even at market prices, that's a huge amount of money. What do you need so much money for? My team isn't complete yet. Of course, it's for gotcha pulls. Early the next morning, Ash, accompanied by Lucas, went to the mercenary guild. Ader had already processed the magic gems yesterday, and now Ash had sufficient funds, so he decided to start with a simple 100 pulls today. When the two arrived at the entrance of the mercenary guild, noises were already coming from inside. Lucas, it looks like our luck is good this morning. Ash then kicked open the door vigorously. As the blinding sunlight poured into the room, all the mercenaries turned their heads to look at the door. Who's the brat that just walked in? You looking to die? Damn bastards. You dare to glare at me? I'm your future employer. The crowd soon recognized that the man standing before them was the notorious Third Prince, Ash. Ash ignored their gazes. He was busy looking for suitable talents. In this game, character strength is divided into 4 rarity levels from N to SSR, with higher rarity characters naturally being stronger. Just then, Ash saw a person radiating a purple glow. Your Highness, welcome to the Crossroad branch of the Continental Mercenary Guild. Ash inwardly marveled, not expecting to encounter an SR-ranked character just upon entering. Mercenary, can you tell me your name? My name is Jupiter. It's an honor to meet you. I've never seen that uniform before. Where is it from? This is a uniform from the Empire of Everblack, a style from decades ago. It's normal that you haven't seen it. It seems you were originally a soldier of the Empire. I served in the army for 30 years, once as the captain of the 2nd Sorcerer Squadron of the Empire. After retiring, I've been making a living as a mercenary. Still dedicating yourself to the Empire even after retirement. Truly a fine example for a soldier. It's not entirely for the Empire. Life would be very difficult on just a retired soldier's pension. Your Highness, what brings you here? What else would I come to the Mercenary Guild for? Of course, to hire capable mercenaries. Isn't your Highness here to buy shields to sacrifice for you? Hearing this, Lucas immediately drew his sword, but Ash stopped him. The results of the war at the frontier base where your Highness first fought are now widely known. It seems you paid a hefty price for your reckless bravery. We are indeed people who work for money, but we are not fools who dig our own graves. We don't want to follow a naive commander and give up our lives. That's well said. But you come here to sell your lives, don't you? Because you have no other choice but to sell your lives. And now you tell me you're afraid of losing them and say you're not fools who dig their own graves. Jupiter, doesn't that sound a bit strange? Although your record is impressive, wasn't the real reason you retired because you were caught making underhanded deals behind the army's back? How is what you did different from digging your own grave? From corruption in the military to smuggling goods for enemy countries, to go to such lengths, and you still wear the military uniform. You were exposed and kicked out of the army. You really have thick skin. Jupiter, the incarnation of corruption, a corrupt soldier, a dishonored retiree stripped of all military honors. However, as a combatant, her strength is undeniable. Called the Lightning Sorcerer, Jupiter, although not perfect, you are indeed praiseworthy. Jupiter's gaze was steady as he responded, although not perfect, I am proud to have been a soldier of the Empire. Please be careful with your words, Your Highness. Ash, unbothered, smiled slightly. I just want to ask you one question. How much is your pride worth? How much money would it take like for you to become my hunting dog. Though I might look ordinary, my price is not low. I currently earn 100,000 autos a year. 200,000. I'll give you double. 200,000. Perhaps a significant sum for mercenaries, but for the third prince of the empire, Ash, this was trivial. If money could buy SR level talent, Ash was willing to pay any amount. I will purchase your fear of death. I'll pay double the base annual salary up front. Those cowards who don't want to sell their lives better leave now. But if there are real mercenaries who want to make a fortune, come to the open land west of Crossroad tonight. After all this, Ash went to the church and was treated by the Saintess. After the treatment, his scars were healed but still left faint traces. The Saintess who treated him was the hidden R-rated heroine and a top healer, Saintess Margarita. If certain conditions are met, she could be invited to join his team in the future. However, Ash's visit to the church was not for this purpose. As we agreed earlier, I've called all the clerics who are currently without assignments. Damien, since returning, was also placed in the church by Ash. Ash gestured with his hand. Let's go then. We have a lot to do today. It'll be busy. That evening, the coffins from the frontline base arrived at the open land on the west side of Crossroad. Some bodies will forever rest here, while others remain forever on the battlefield. Neatly arranged military coffins, draped with the Empire's flag, solemn and dignified. There was also a large-scale choir, a formal funeral rarely seen in this city. Most notable was the generous compensation given to the relatives of the deceased, which shocked those who heard the amount, and eventually, the story spread completely among the citizens. Ash didn't intend to manipulate this event. This was a performance, a very reasonable one. Ash wanted them to understand that the frontline battles here should be considered a noble mission of human dedication. Let's be clear, you may also sacrifice yourselves on the front line in the future. This cemetery will not only add new graves every week, but will also hear the choirs singing. However, I want to tell you that your sacrifice is more expensive than survival. All funeral expenses and the compensation for the deceased amount to a huge sum. Just this time, I've invested half of the funds from selling the magic gems. Therefore, death should not become cheap and common. I will do everything in my power to keep you alive, by any means necessary, to save you, allowing you to charge on the front line. So, please don't fall easily. You must stay alive and come here to collect your salary, not to make me spend this money on your funerals. Ash's speech ended, and he didn't care how the citizens would view it. Perhaps they would see it as the excuse of an incompetent commander or the wastefulness of a mad lord. But that didn't matter, because in this place, no one was more capable than him. Ash knew that now was the time to clear stage one. That evening, he and Lucas went to the backyard of the Lord's mansion in Crossroad. Ash did not hesitate and immediately activated the portal. A pile of chaotic stones began to float up, and the portal was activated. In the next second, a magic-filled portal appeared before them. Your Highness, what is this exactly? This is a gate that leads to the dungeon beneath the lake, a portal directly to the enemy's stronghold. One moment, the man was conducting funerals for fallen soldiers. The next, he was about to head to the monster's stronghold with Lucas. But Ash wasn't an undercover agent sent by the monsters to the human camp. Instead, Empire Defense was a game that blended two types of gameplay. The scenes of monsters surging towards Crossroad were part of the tower defense mode, while exploring dungeons and uncovering the monster's origins when the enemy wasn't attacking was the dungeon raid mode, reflecting on all that had happened since his arrival here. Although not everything had gone smoothly, it had been a pretty good start. Not only did he have Damien, who could be considered a cheat character, but he had also gained Jupiter, an SR-ranked wide area attacker, and he also had enough money, which could be said to be a wonderful start like never before. Ash explained the rules to Lucas and told him that they were now going to scout the next enemy move. Your Highness, I understand completely, but seeing Lucas's expression, Ash had his doubts. The prince he had served all his life had suddenly changed drastically and was familiar with the structure of the city he had just arrived in, as well as the existence of dungeons, which should have been suspicious. Yet, Lucas had silently followed Ash without any questions. Lucas, don't you have anything you want to ask me? Hearing this, Lucas's expression suddenly became serious. Ash felt nervous inside, worried that he might not be able to answer his question. I will act according to your commands, without any questions. I am both your sword and your shield, so I will simply follow your commands, to attack and to defend. Ash knew that Lucas must have doubts in his heart, but his words made his stance clear. Even if he had doubts, Lucas would still unconditionally trust and follow Ash. Very well. Lucas, are you ready to enter the dungeon with me? As long as I am with you, even if it's to the deepest levels of hell, I am willing. Thus, Ash chose the only destination, the lakeside ferry. With a flash of light, the two vanished from the spot, and the magic-emitting stones also returned to their normal state. When they reappeared, they were in front of a black lake. This lake, the source of the monsters, was a nightmare-releasing hell and also a dungeon located in the southern part of the world. At that moment, the lake underwent a transformation. The once calm surface suddenly cracked open, revealing a pathway, and then, one after another, hands emerged from the ground. The next enemy is these living armors. Seeing this scene, Ash panicked completely. He had imagined all kinds of monsters that could appear in stage 1, even wyverns, which he would have accepted calmly. But of all enemies, he least wanted to face the living armors. So these guys are the monsters we have to stop this time. At that moment, the system gave a prompt. They would face face 1,052 living armor assaulters and 1 enemy of unknown information. Lucas also noticed Ash's change. "Your Highness, are you alright? You look pale. Are you feeling unwell?" Unbeknownst to him, Ash had a premonition of what was to come. Crossroad might truly be finished this time. Even if the enemy were powerful dragons, Ash would not fear them, but the enemy was a vast number of living armors. In previous games, whenever living armors appeared in Stage 1, Ash would reset the game without hesitation. Living armors, made up of armor, are intangible and extremely difficult to deal with. Their true form is the specter inside the armor, which are highly resistant to physical attacks. Although later in the game, with a variety of equipment, one could easily fend off these living armors, the current situation was that they almost had no effective equipment to combat the living armors. Ash felt a strong malice, as if someone was deliberately hindering his progress. And there were only 3 days left until the start of Stage 1. Let's go back, Lucas. They could only try every possible defense measure. After returning to the mansion, Ash immediately inquired with Ader about the city's military strength. "We have only 526 troops available for the front line, and there are no other reinforcements available in the city. Then send couriers to other cities to borrow troops. Offer them double the standard weekly salary. Also send a courier to the royal family. Tell them the monsters are starting to stir, and request the maximum number of reinforcements." "My lord, are you sure you want to do this? Requesting support from the Empire now might trigger some fatal scenarios in the future. That's a problem for later. We need to survive first. Call all the carpenters, stonemasons, blacksmiths, and alchemists in the city here. But that would mean halting the processing of magic gems. The city is about to be destroyed. Is processing magic gems more important than that? Stop the processing. Call them all here." Thus, Ash realized that the difficulty of this world might be even higher than any game he had played before. He had not yet fully decided on his next steps, but there was no time left for hesitation. The harder the game, the more necessary it is to create new variables. Ash decided to take a gamble and choose to change his profession to a beginner commander. The system congratulated him almost instantly, but the next second, Ash felt something wrong with his body. His rate of ability growth dropped by 50%, and so did his equipment proficiency. For a moment, Ash couldn't believe his eyes. He didn't understand why this profession would bring such significant negative effects. However, a series of pop-ups soon calmed him down. It turns out that after changing to a beginner commander, he could provide enhancement effects for all allies. Even if Ash just stood on the battlefield, the attack and defense abilities of his allies would increase. This made Ash understand why there were negative effects. Moreover, the commander profession also has a unique system that can provide additional ability boosts based on the composition of team members. For Ash, who was once a gamer, this is arguably the best profession. However, things did not always go smoothly. "Are you going to explain to me what exactly is going on? Since no one responded to your recruitment order, I had to invite all the leaders here urgently. You little brat, do you always have to kidnap people every time you call them? Why did you suddenly bring us here? You dragged us here like this. If something goes wrong with the processing work, are you going to take responsibility? Even if you're of the royal family, you can't just do this." At this point, Ash could only respond in his own way to their complaints. "Are you guys looking for a beating? Shouting in front of me like that? Don't you know who I am? I am the prince of this country, the lord of this city. When I call you over, even if it means crawling here, you should do it. How dare you speak to me like this? Do you want to die?" "I'm sorry, Your Highness. We have never served a royal lord before." However, after hearing Ash's words, the people were simply shocked. After calming down, Ash switched to a more practical approach. "I will sell the magic gems recovered by the army to you at 20% of the original price. Having direct access to magic gems should be beneficial for you, right? However, from now on, whenever I issue an instruction, you must prioritize the production of military supplies. Of course, I will pay all the costs without shortfall. How about it? This should be a fair deal, right?" Ash's aim was to persuade them with money and benefits, as the only resource he had left was money. The craftsman exchanged glances and then responded, "Of course, we would be willing to trade with the Lord. When do we start? What do we need to do?" Ash secretly sighed in relief. Indeed, money is always the most valuable thing in this world. Afterwards, Ash summoned the heroes of the city. "You must have heard from Lucas by now. A legion of 1,000 living armors is marching towards Crossroad. They are expected to arrive in 2 days. Apart from Lucas, everyone present was shocked. "Your Highness, what should we do next?" "You all must do your best and fight with all your might. Let me instruct you all on what each of you needs to do. Lucas, you will be in charge as the general commander of the forces. All the soldiers are very disorganized right now. You have 2 days to get them in order. I will do my best." "Your Highness, sorry, Lily, but I can't do without your help right now." Ash interrupted Lucas's reply and turned to Lily. "But you don't need to go to the front lines, so don't worry. You're in charge of supervising the crafting of city defenses." After spending time together, Ash had decided to keep Lily working in the city long term. "Your Highness, may I ask you one question? If you want this old woman to be more proactive, shouldn't my annual salary be increased?" Jupiter said with a smile, clearly interested in the benefits. It turns out that Jupiter's trait is Gold Rush. She's a true gold digger. She will serve as the captain of the assault team in this battle. Damien, take this. It's specially prepared for you. Ash handed him an item. Due to Damien's Thousand Eye trait, he would serve as a sniper in the battle. Ash assigned tasks to everyone to prepare for the upcoming battle, but he was most worried about Damien, as being a sniper wasn't his regular job. By the way, Damien, where are your glasses? Actually, I wear glasses to deliberately impair my vision, but now that my eyes are useful, I don't wear them anymore. Seeing that no one was panicking over the news of the enemy, Ash also felt a bit more relaxed. After the meeting, Ash went to the southern wall of Crossroad. The craftsmen saw him coming and set aside their work. How is the condition of the wall? The condition is not very good. After all, it has been neglected for years. Since it's called a fortress city, isn't fortifying the walls basic? Why leave it like this? That's because of insufficient budget. The decrease in monster appearances has reduced the collection of magic gems. Therefore, the previous lord reduced the budget. Isn't a fortress built to stop monsters? No matter how much material and budget is needed, it must be fortified to the utmost. Start quickly. The monsters are still advancing towards the city. After leaving the wall, Ash went to the carpentry workshop. You must have heard the news. What you need to make in the next 2 days are walls about this high, just enough to block the road. The craftsman looked confused. I'm sorry, Your Highness, but the monsters can easily smash through wooden walls. Ash waved his hand, cutting off the craftsman. I don't need walls that can actually stop the monsters. Just follow my orders and make walls out of wood. Don't worry, these wooden walls will definitely be of great use when the time comes. So, stop complaining and get to work. In the following time, everything proceeded in an orderly manner. There are only 30 minutes left before the start of stage 1. Time flies. The scout is constantly watching the woods outside the city. Suddenly, the scout notices something unusual in the woods. They're here. The monsters have appeared. Instantly, everyone in the fortress tensed up. Ash stood on the front line, his tone firm. Don't be afraid. I will fight with you. Those guys are just shrimp soldiers and crab generals. It's just that there are many of them, and we are the strongest army in the southern part of the empire, perfectly prepared for defending the city, with equipment in great condition. We can definitely repel the enemy. Don't worry, follow my orders and fight, because if you do, we can celebrate our victory tonight. Although Ash's words were firm, he knew in his heart that the Living Armor Army is the toughest monster to handle in the initial stage, and the city's defenders were just low-level mercenaries, poorly prepared due to the urgency of time. He couldn't tell the city's soldiers about these situations. Ash had to keep it all to himself. All he could do was pray that Jupiter would perform as expected in this battle. Rookies, it's our turn to take the stage. All monsters have a similar pattern of action. They aim to eliminate the enemy in front of them. If there are no other obstacles, they generally move in the shortest path towards humans. This makes it easy to predict their movements, thus making it easy for them to fall into traps. Unfortunately, due to the lack of time, the traps couldn't be dug very deep. However, to face the most difficult monsters in stage 1, Ash had already set up traps, albeit not deep enough, but now they were sufficient. Jupiter, now is the time. You damn monsters, let this old woman make a big score, using her skill Bleaching Zone. Unfortunately, the number of living armors was too great, and the distributed damage was not enough to completely annihilate them. How dare you challenge me? A bunch of things that don't respect the elderly. The monsters that had just been hit by the Bleaching Zone began to emit a trace of lightning, and the lightning around Jupiter gradually turned blue. Kids, tonight's dinner is fried armor. Smash them all. Countless bolts of lightning in the sky seemed to respond to Jupiter's fury, fiercely striking the living armors. Seeing such a scene, the soldiers on the city wall were greatly encouraged. It turned out that Jupiter first marked the monsters with her first skill, then applied an unavoidable attack to the marked targets with her second skill. Jupiter's performance in this battle was undoubtedly spectacular. Unfortunately, there were more than 1,000 living armors, and even after a heavy blow, they continued to surge toward the city relentlessly. Jupiter, do not linger in battle. Withdraw immediately. Upon hearing this, Jupiter immediately led the strike team to retreat. Behind them were dense living armors. These monsters had no fear of death. Even as their comrades fell, they did not stop their advance. Kids, run faster. Don't look back. Just keep running forward. They were drawing the monsters in, ready to act according to Ash's plan. Jupiter and her strike team members strictly followed Ash's instructions, moving quickly. Seeing that the strike team members were about to be caught up by the living armors, Ash could only pray for them in his heart. Fortunately, the strike team eventually made it back behind the wooden walls. So far, everything was going according to Ash's plan. Now was the time for those wooden walls to come into play. The living armors had no independent thought. They simply followed their instincts to pursue the humans in front of them. The living armors did not break the wooden walls in front of them, and as the huge troop squeezed into the narrow gaps, their column width narrowed. I know you've been waiting for a long time, soldiers of the Empire. From now on, don't hold back. Fire all the cannons. In an instant, the cannons on the city wall fired continuously, and the living armors crowded together had no time to react. They could only watch helplessly as the shells got closer and closer, finally being completely engulfed in the explosions. This is the basic strategy of tower defense games, altering the enemy's path to achieve kills. Fire all the the cannons. Keep the barrage heavy. At this moment, the sight of the flames provided everyone with a feeling of immense reassurance. With this going on, we should be able to win, right? Those monsters can't get through there now. We can't be too sure yet. Suddenly, monsters wielding shields appeared among the living armors, standing in front, resisting the fierce cannon fire. Such attacks really can't defeat them. What tough creatures. Fortunately, Ash had anticipated this situation. Lily, now, activate it. Yes, Your Highness. Activate the gravitational field artifact. The alchemists immediately sprang into action. A terrifying force of gravity was applied to the shield bearers, slowing their movements. Lucas, get ready. Yes, Your Highness. Ballista units, all ready. Following the command, the soldiers on the city walls quickly began to move. In almost an instant, all ballista were aimed at the center of the battlefield, targeting the spiritual cores in the chests of the living armors. Ballista, fire. With the command given, each bolt shot out, easily piercing the shields and destroying their spiritual cores. This was the second step of the combat plan, to stack damage through crossfire and then finish off with artifacts and ballista. So far, everything was going smoothly. Your Highness, some of the creatures have bypassed the wall. It turned out that there were simply too many enemies, and the crowded mass pushed some of the monsters out of the planned route. Jupiter, you handle the living armors coming from the right side of the wooden wall. Use hit and run tactics to stop them. Understood, Your Highness. Jupiter then led the assault team to the right side of the wooden wall, while the monsters squeezed out headed straight towards them. Damn monsters, didn't I tell you to respect your elders? Now that Jupiter was holding the right side, Ash could be somewhat relieved. Now his concern shifted to the enemies on the left side. Damien, it's your turn now. Shoot the guys coming in from the left. Don't let them get close to the walls. Damien, though full of fear, became sharp and determined the moment he aimed at the enemies. Without any hesitation, he pulled the trigger of his crossbow, sending arrows in a strange trajectory directly through the monster's spiritual course. At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on the battlefield, where the situation was rapidly changing. Although Ash knew Damien's abilities were almost like cheats, seeing him hit the spiritual cores with a single crossbow shot still surprised him. Now, with cannon and ballista support up front, Jupiter, the lightning sorceress, guarding the right, and Damien, a near-cheat level sharpshooter on the left, the enemy's losses had unknowingly reached close to 500. It seemed as though victory was close at hand. However, just then, Ash noticed something unusual on the battlefield, an occurrence he had never seen in the game before. He suddenly remembered that when the enemy losses reached 500, the boss of the Living Armor Legion would appear. That huge creature floating in the air was the Spectre Knight. The terror of the Living Armor Legion was not only in their strength, but in how, once repelled, they would summon the boss monster like entering a second phase. But now the Living Armors had not yet been fully repelled, and the Spectre Knight had already appeared. Normally, the Spectre Knight wouldn't take any action. It would just stupidly float in the air. However, Ash overlooked one critical thing. This was no longer a game. This was reality. Even if the Spectre Knight just floated there, its massive phantom presence was enough to panic the soldiers. Despite the Living Armor army not being completely repelled yet, the sudden appearance of the Spectre Knight sent the human soldiers into panic. Even if the Spectre Knight made no moves, the sheer terror brought on by its huge form caused a collapse in the soldiers' will to fight. This was the one oversight in Ash's battle plan, the primal fear that a massive alien form could instill in humans, which not only caused a significant drop in frontline firepower, but also affected the animals due to the appearance of the Spectre Knight. This was a scenario no one had anticipated. Jupiter, the commander of the assault team, was also deeply affected. Thrown to the ground by the spooked horses, Jupiter saw the living armors ominously looming nearby. If Jupiter fell, the entire defensive line would collapse in an instant, as those monsters had already charged forward, eagerly seeking to annihilate any living humans they encountered. At a critical moment, the members of the assault team stepped up, shielding Jupiter. However, Ash knew in his heart that their strength was no match for these monsters. Your Highness, we must now support Jupiter's team with the cannon and the firepower network. No, if we cut off the firepower support, even more monsters will escape from there. The appearance of the Spectre Knight had created a significant flaw in Ash's combat plan. The firing of the cannons and ballista ceased, and the previously impenetrable net of firepower suddenly slackened. Find a way to repair the firepower network, but the soldiers had already lost their spirits and had no will to fight. At this point, Ash could only pray that Jupiter would hold on a little longer. Meanwhile, Jupiter finally awoke from unconsciousness, the intense pain reminding her that she was still alive. Jupiter, you're finally awake. Jupiter, the situation is critical. What's happening? Jupiter struggled to sit up, looking around. Before her was a chaotic battlefield. Jupiter understood that now was not the time to lie down and rest. The rescue team will be here soon. We must hold on until then. But before he could finish, a living armor lunged at Jupiter. The teammate quickly swung his flail, barely fending off the creature. Even though the creature's helmet was deformed, it still didn't fall. You took a hit from me and didn't die. Rookie! Behind you. However, the man was still impaled by a spear. He remembered the creature behind him had not yet been dealt with, but now it was too late. Everything was over. You damned monsters. Just as she was about to cast a spell, she felt something was off. Perhaps due to the injuries she had just just sustained, her magical power was now uncontrollable. When a mage cannot wield her magic, she can only watch helplessly as her teammates fall one by one. In such a situation, the mercenary's morale began to collapse. Without hesitation, a male mercenary dropped his shield and started to flee. But he forgot that the worst thing to do on a battlefield is to show your back to your enemy. As the small defensive line maintained by the assault team completely disintegrated, Jupiter could smell the scent of the living armors before her, the odor of rusted iron mixed with decaying water, reminiscent of the smell of drowning victims. Can't you just stay under the lake? Do you really not want this old woman to smoothly earn her annual salary? In extreme anger, she launched her magic again, killing the creature in front of her with a single strike. However, she knew that the power of this attack was not even a quarter of what it usually was. She realized that this was really the end for her. Members of the assault team fell one by one, and she could no longer use magic as before. Still, the dense mass of monsters pressed forward. Jupiter knew her life was finally drawing to a close. You should go. Saving one is better than losing all. I will use magic to buy you some time. Kid, take this chance and run. How can I go? Staying here is the best option. Grandma, you are a mage. Mercenary survival rule number 2. Always stay close to our mage. Compared to running without a horse, following you and assisting in combat increases my chances of survival. Although this sounded very naive, the young mercenary's tactics were effective. He didn't try to eliminate the living armors in front of him, but used his spear to keep them at bay to maintain a safe distance. Anyway, I will hold them off. Please prepare to launch the next spell. Even though Damien was providing long-range support from the city walls, it was far from enough to stop those monsters completely. Just as Jupiter finally gathered enough magic to summon lightning, the young mercenary was pierced through by the monster's spears. Kid, you damned creatures. Jupiter vented her anger with lightning, but it was all too late. If she had gathered her magic a few seconds faster, perhaps she could have saved the young boy. Jupiter was old, and her heart could no longer bear to keep each casualty in her memory. Do you remember the first rule of the mercenary's survival guide? Hearing Jupiter's voice, the boy struggled to turn his head. Never accept a task that mysteriously offers a lot of compensation. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Kid, your survival rules are all wrong. You won't succeed as a mercenary that way. If you want to become wealthy and make a name for yourself, don't take extremely dangerous tasks. Take those that offer rich rewards. Also, stay as far away as possible from those damned mages, because they will steal your achievements. But most importantly, if you want to stay alive, don't become a mercenary to start with. Can't believe I don't even have the magic to light a cigarette. Thought I'd be enjoying a high salary. It's all over now. Seems I'm also a failed mercenary. Time rewound to 3 minutes earlier, when Ash was instructing Lucas to give up the rescue. In that situation, Ash knew that only by stabilizing the morale of the troops was there a chance to hold the line. You idiots, snap out of it. Don't get scared just because that creature is big. As soon as you fell, the soldiers were as spirited as if they were injected with adrenaline. Ash realized this might be due to the effect of his skills. Thinking this, he immediately called for Lucas. I'm in charge of calming the soldiers down and repairing the kill zone, and you need to go out of the city gate and rescue Jupiter's team. Ash knew that sending Lucas out of the city alone was a very reckless order, but Lucas did not hesitate at all and went alone into danger. Everyone, keep fighting. Wake up. Snap out of it. Lucas went out alone, charging into the crowd of monsters just to bring back the members of the assault team. However, he didn't know that only Jupiter was left in the assault team now, and she was already prepared to sacrifice herself. Lady Jupiter, please stand still and don't move. Before he finished speaking, Lucas had already efficiently dealt with the surrounding monsters. His timely appearance gave Jupiter hope for survival, but if Lucas had arrived a bit earlier, maybe things would have been different. Lucas said nothing, just pulled Jupiter onto the horse, then spurred the horse fiercely, whipping it to speed away from the area. The monsters behind them, seeing this, threw their weapons, trying to use their spears to stop the duo's escape. Lucas casually swung his sword, deflecting the imminent danger. This young knight, you really are quite capable. How about meeting my granddaughter sometime? She's quite a delicate girl. If you still have the energy to joke, then use your magic to recover first so you can continue to fight. There are still many monsters out there. Even so, I still owe you thanks for saving me. You don't need to thank me. I was merely following His Highness's orders. But inside, he was still frustrated that if only his horse could have run faster, maybe more lives could have been saved. Let's discuss regrets after we've dealt with these monsters. It's been a long time since I've been on the battlefield like this, and it's been just as long since I've been this enraged. Meanwhile, thanks to Ash's the indomitable commander's skill, the kill zone in front had already been repaired. Jupiter had also returned safely, and it seemed like everything was moving in the right direction. But in a moment, Ash lost 4 valuable hero characters. He realized he had been too reliant on his past gaming experience, neglecting that this was a real world where more details needed to be considered, like the wooden walls that might catch fire from the cannon fire. The monsters had broken through the wooden walls, and they had to fight the monsters across the city walls after all.